On the line right now is the great Jeff DeForrest out of Miami, in Las Vegas currently for a little R&R, but a Miami guy, perfect to talk to about the LeBron situation and a host of other things. Please welcome Jeff DeForrest to the Artie Lange Show. Jeff, what's up?
Artie, how are you, my friend? I'm actually in the driveway here at the MGM Grand. Just had dinner, and you know the media loves a free meal, but the check hit the table like a brick at Craft Steak at the MGM Grand. And, I had to leave a quick claim deed on my house in Florida just to get out of there so I could talk to you. I mean, wow, what prices here. But,
yeah, no.
It's amazing to me, you know, and you've been to Vegas so many times, and I mentioned I was coming on your show, and you're very popular out here. Everybody all of a sudden thought I was some big shot. And how could it be possible that Tupac Shakur got gunned down in the driveway here when people were leaving a Mike Tyson fight, and 15,000 people are pouring into the streets and nobody saw a thing?
I know. Well, I have a lot of...
they gunned them down right here by the cab, line, and nobody saw anything. 20 years later.
Well, people, I'll tell you how, Jeff. People are too distracted by the prices at the restaurants that you just went to. if you don't...
That was tough. I mean, I was wondering when the guy said, you're going to divide this check up, and I said, yeah, divide it in two, would you please?
Yeah, the way to get a good deal on a steak out there is if you drop 20 G's at the craps table. You're down 20. If you're down 20K, a guy who represents the hotel will come up and go, "Would you like a steak, sir?"
Yeah, I mean, somebody evil had to invent that video poker game that they have at the bars.
Oh, they did.
Where you're getting a free drink and it ends up costing you $46 for vodka and cranberry juice, and you're thinking, no wonder. I mean, Steve Wynn is walking around with a big smile on his face. He can't see a thing except the money going into his bank account.
I'll tell you, it's very sentimental when you've led a life like me. Vegas is a walk down memory lane. The last time I was in Las Vegas, I actually went to my old Coke dealer's kid's bar mitzvah. It was nice. Yeah.
Well, every now and then, though, you just have to kind of refresh your feeling about being a degenerate. It really reinvigorates me into thinking, yes, there is something to this sickness.
Yeah.
And a lot of people are taking part. We're not the only ones, Artie. My son, who we're out here celebrating his 30th birthday party, he had a 12-fight parlay on the UFC for tomorrow night. And you know what? They actually had to book it in Costa Rica. They wouldn't even take the bet here.
12-fight parlay.
Some guy's going to disappear into the outer regions, the distant outposts of the jungle. Never pay him off on this thing. I mean, it's $50 to win $50,000 if he hits a ball.
I might have told you this before, Jeff. I've definitely said it before on the air, but my good buddy, the brilliant comedian Norm Macdonald, he enjoys gambling, and he talks about the fact that people call gambling a disease. Norm likes to say, they call gambling a disease, but it's the only disease where you could win a bunch of money.
It is funny, too. My mom gets nervous. Bless her heart, she's still around at like 89 years old, and at least that's what she'll admit to. But she actually left me a message today on my hotel room phone, which, you never check those messages because it can only be the cops that are calling or maybe your attorney from back home. You don't want to deal with this mess. And she actually left. She says, Jeff, could you please call me back? She's a little old Jewish lady from Florida now. And she says, could you please call me back? Call me at home, 888-ADMIT-IT. Wow, when did that become your home number? I mean, come on. I signed up for everything anonymous while I'm out here, right?
Very nice.
So I'm protected.
I'm glad you're having a good time. Let's talk a little bit, though, about back east for you, Miami. What's in the soup that LeBron James is sipping on lately? My God, man.
It's funny. You could make the case, and there are any number of lists on this, Artie, that this guy is having the greatest individual season of any guy in NBA history. And a lot of factors go into that. And you could check a bunch of lists and find everybody from Shaquille O'Neal to Tiny Archibald as the number one guy. Right. But if you look at what he's doing and the way that he's doing it, it's just been phenomenal. And all of a sudden, Miami, which was a city that wouldn't know a basketball from a bowling pin, has become a hot hoops town with the Hurricanes doing well also. And
sure.
LeBron James, all of a sudden, I think they waved the magic wand over the Heat. They're starting to beat people like a drum. And thank you very much for giving me 5.5 points last night with the Heat over Oklahoma City.
I know. Wow, what about that?
I feel like
that? You're getting points on a gift. The gods of gambling smile on you already.
Jeff, I feel like they've been peppering LeBron all week. week. You know, he's going through this unbelievable stretch of games, and, you know, Michael Jordan and Magic come out and say, well, you know, he's not the greatest. It comes down to how many rings you have, and Kobe's got more rings. And then Magic talks about all of MJ's rings. I feel like LeBron has been peppered all week, and finally in the last, 12 to 20 hours, he came out and just kind of got fed up with it. What would you think of his reaction when he said you can't just judge everything on rings?
They're still beating on LeBron James because he made the hideous decision of going on TV with Jim Gray, which, Artie, you've been on with a lot of different people, Stern. I mean, the list goes on of the famous people that you've been on the air with as a partner. And you go on the air with Jim Gray. I mean, that's going to take you 5 years to get off the depth list.
Bad move.
I want to embrace.
Bad decision.
How embarrassing was that?
Yeah,
and
bad
then
decision.
had that stupid thing where they had the pep rally when they signed with the Heat. And,
right.
People were screaming about 7 championships. But if you look at it, I mean, the best guy that he played with before he got to the Heat was Anderson Varejao. He's talking about, I mean, all these NBA bag ladies that he was playing with in Cleveland. He played there for 7 years. That would have been enough to lead him to blow his brains out. But he's come back, and you certainly can't pin it on him that he's only got the one title. He came within an eyelash the first year with the Heat. They had a very awkward season that year. And they're being coached by a guy. I mean, Eric Spoelstra doesn't remind you of Red Auerbach, does he? I mean,
no, he doesn't.
Listen into Ravi Shankar tape.
No, he doesn't. And people forget. But Jeff, people forget that with those nobodies, he took Cleveland to a finals.
To the finals,
They were in the finals one year.
Can you imagine? I mean, how great is this guy? The minute he's on your team is a contender. And the Heat haven't had really, obviously they have Dwayne Wade and Chris Bosh, but, some of these guys shoot the ball like they have a gyroscope in it. It's not like the Jordan years where you had any number of marksmen from three-point land.
Right.
You could name 3 guys right off the top of your head, where you had Paxson and Hodges and Steve Kerr. These were great three-point shooters. The Heat haven't had any part of that. They tried to do it with Mike Miller. His back is no better than Quasimodo's, and he still was able to make some shots. Shane Battier's a bricklayer. He has a Mason card to get into the building. And, here's LeBron James carrying these guys with Dwayne Wade, is not the same guy that he was a few years ago, but he's still an effective player. And I think LeBron James, will easily carry this team into the final round, and he may have 2 championships in 3 years, which isn't too shabby.
Oh, I think that's a definite possibility. Absolutely.
But do you fault him, Jeff, for kind of, finally getting fed up with this thing this week? Finally tonight he came out. You know what I mean? Like it seems like at some point he just needed to come out in support of himself. What did you make of his comments tonight?
I'm worried because, we defended Dan Marino in this same conversation for years. I'm worried LeBron if he doesn't have a love child, maybe there's something going on with his mom because she's been laying low. He's been playing great basketball. She had more knockouts than Floyd Mayweather the first year that he was with the Heat.
That's true, man. I'm telling you what, that's a good point. Psychologically, you don't want your mother going nuts in any way.
Right. I mean, you don't want your mother bagging people in the Fontainebleau parking lot. With a wicked right hook, she hit that poor valet Parker, and I don't know how much they had to pay him to keep quiet after that. But I don't blame him. You know what? The guy's been pretty patient, and he's put up with an awful lot of criticism. He's having an unbelievable season, averaging 30 points a game, scoring over 30 the last 6-7 nights. And so I think that speaks a lot more than the number of rings that he has. And let's face it, Chuck Nevitt has 4 rings, and it's not like he's going to the Hall of Fame.
Well, rings, the guy's, 28, 27? I mean, calm down with the rings. He's got a ring. He's 27. By the time he's 35, he'll probably have 5 rings. I mean, it's not like he's at the end of his career and we're talking rings.
Yeah, I think he'd be fine. Even if he only won the 1 ring that he accomplished last year, you can't take away from what the guy's done as a basketball player, and he belongs in a conversation as one of the greatest ever, if not the greatest. What's fun, Artie, is that if you're watching NBA basketball, it can be drudgery. Well, let's face it, unless you have money on the game, only the last 2 minutes are interesting, and even then, if the line makers were running the country, we'd all be rich at this point. And, it always boils down to the last couple of seconds in an NBA game, but LeBron James has just made this team so exciting with the style of play. I think they've taken the thunder away from Lob City, no pun intended about Oklahoma City and the fine team that they have. But I mean, they're fun to watch when they get it going, and they're starting to crank it up, and it looks like they're serious about putting things together and going to have a real strong second half of the season.
What about you, Brent? What do you think about that? Because I think if LeBron only gets the one ring, that is going to be bad for him.
Absolutely.
All-time great conversation. Yeah, he's going to need a couple more.
Yeah, absolutely. All the major sport. It won't matter how many. He could shoot 60% and average 30 points a game the rest of his career, but if he only had one ring.
Yeah, I mean, especially with this.
But he's always in it. I mean, you can make
always.
a lot of players, right?
Yeah,
Stockton and Malone, I mean, they weren't exactly, schleppers, and they have none. We mentioned Marino. And by the way, Artie, I was curious to get your thoughts on that. I almost ran into you. I was trying to find you at the Super Bowl there in New Orleans. I ran into some people from Hoboken. One young lady that said she had just done an interview with you for a magazine, and two bartenders that said that, you were somewhere on Bourbon Street, but they couldn't exactly figure out what condition you were in.
Yeah.
Anyway, I mean, was that the greatest love child in history? No, you'd have to give it to Dr. J, wouldn't you? You had a daughter nobody knew about that was in the finals at Wimbledon before we figured that one out.
I know. Well, this is, I mean, really, it's these sports guys outdo themselves when it comes to stories about broads and kids. Every year there's something new that goes on. I'll tell you, though, New Orleans, that's a fun town, man. I got my eating on, as the young kids say. Where did you eat down there, Jeff? You hit mothers?
Yeah, it's like 20 pounds guaranteed you're putting on. I mean, you're coming out of there like De Niro in The Raging Bull. I'll take it right off, is what you're telling your girlfriend after a couple of nights on Bourbon Street about the weight. You know what? I don't even like oysters, and you end up eating oysters. I had an erection for the last 3 weeks since I left there.
Yeah, Drago.
That's what they say. I mean, it's like gargling with Viagra going into New Orleans.
It is. No, that is the ocean's Viagra, or oysters, man. They are.
And it was great, too. We had a few recommendations off the radio show I do in Miami, and all of them are right on the money, including Acme Oysters, which I think was a sensation. We ended up eating grilled oysters there about 3 of the nights that we were in for the Super Bowl. And terrific town. You know what? I would recommend they just keep coming back there with the Super Bowl. It should be there every year.
Real quick, as a Heat fan, who do you want to see Miami play in the finals? And as a basketball fan, who would be a better series to watch as a basketball fan?
Well, it was potentially a great series last year with Oklahoma City. I think the shock was after the Heat lost the first game, everybody thought, okay, it's going to be a cakewalk for Kevin Durant and company.
Right.
They were playing fantastic basketball. I mean, they blew by San Antonio after being down 2-0 and made their way to the finals. You could have never imagined that they were going to lose 4 straight to the Heat after winning the opener. And that was a real tight ball game in the second game, if you remember, in Oklahoma City. And
Sure.
then the Heat just gelled and had the better matchups all the way through. Plus, you always need somebody, and this is why the ring argument is so interesting, because you need some schlepper to rise to the occasion, don't you?
Yeah.
And all of a sudden, these guys that weren't doing squat for the Heat all year long started firing up threes. They were scraping the rooftop and dropping in with great consistency. And you always need a little bit of help. It doesn't matter how great of a player you are. Things really have to come together. But Oklahoma City would be a great matchup and a rematch. I don't know if you can believe in San Antonio. They always have great regular seasons and then somehow find a way to drop out of things, even though they've won a bunch of championships. And, what are they? Every guy on the team, the average age is 90, isn't it? I think Tim Duncan was playing for Century Village.
I know.